Alright, what's up, Dragon Brood? We're going to be talking about some secrets of Strixhaven because we got a lot of previews and lots of cards to talk about, so we're going to try to go through them very quickly. Y'all are going to get to see my first reaction to them because I haven't seen them yet either, so this should be a lot of fun. So we're going to start with Quandrix, the Proof. So this is a 6 mana, so 4 green blue for a 6/6 flying trample Elder Dragon. It does have Cascade, so whenever you cast it, you reveal cards so you get to something that costs less than this. And then instant and sorcery spells you cast from your hand have Cascade. Like, this card's obviously good, right? I mean, 6 mana is a lot, but we're casting stuff much larger than 6 these days without too many issues. And it's a 6/6 flyer with trample. You get a free card from it, and every instant and sorcery gets you an additional card, potentially, assuming they cost more than like 1. But yeah, this is actually pretty cool. I expect this card will see a decent amount of play. Silver Quill, the Disputant. 2 white black, so 4 mana for a 4/4 flying vigilant. Each instant and sorcery spell you cast has casualty 1. As you cast a spell, you can sacrifice a creature with power 1 or greater. When you do, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. Alright, so obviously you want to play this with tokens or something, so that way you cast your spell, you can sacrifice a thing and get a copy. The thing about this card that actually makes it pretty good is that it's only 4 mana. So 4 mana for a 4/4 flying vigilant, so you can still attack and block, and then all your instants and sorceries just could be copied fairly easily. Yeah, this is also strong. So far, they're 2 for 2 on these Elder Dragons. Witherbloom the Balancer. Okay, now we're getting into the high cost. 6 black green, so 8 mana for a 5/5 Elder Dragon. Oh, it has affinity for creatures, so it gets cheaper as you have more bodies. Has flying, death touch, instant and sorcery spells you cast have affinity for creatures. Okay, so this is probably also good. Like, this is crazy. But this one's pretty interesting in the sense that it's probably going to get cast most of the time, I'm assuming, for 4 or 5, because it's not that big a deal to have, like, especially in current standard, to have maybe an elf, a badger mole cub, play this on turn 3 or something, right? Like, totally reasonable. Affinity for creatures for your spells? That's kind of interesting, because from a dex building standpoint, are you going to put more things that cost 4 and 5 in there hoping they're cheaper, or do you just balance it out with maybe a handful of big spells? Like, I don't really know, but somebody's going to figure out something to do with this. Laura Hold the Historian. 3 white red, so 5 mana 5/5 flying haste. Each instant and sorcery card in your hand has Miracle 2. You may cast this card for its miracle cost whenever you draw it, if it's the first card you drew this turn. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Yeah, these are all good, man, in different ways. It's interesting that they made all of them focus on instant and sorcery so far. But this one, again, it's cost efficient. 5 mana, 5/5, flying haste, right? So we love that. Giving everything Miracle 2 also comes down to a balance thing, right? Are you willing to play some bigger stuff so you're getting value from the miracle cost? Or are you just saying, well, I'll just do this thing and I'll have a couple of big ones that do something cool? This is another one I think we're going to be able to do some crazy stuff with. Just, man, and you can force a draw every turn for yourself, right? Like, you just discard and draw. Nothing wrong with that either. Like, this card's very good. Prismari, the Inspiration. 5 blue-red, so 7 mana for a 7/7, so quite large. Flying, ward, pay 5 life. Instant sorcery spells you cast have Storm. Oh, no, this one has to cost a lot, though. Where the others are cheap or get a reduction cost in some way, this has to be pricey because you're giving everything Storm. So, yeah. But again, playable, doable. More of a late game type dragon than the others where you want to play them early or on time to get advantage of the stuff. This is more like you're going to get there later where you have a little extra mana and then you can just pile a bunch of different spells on. Probably the weakest of the dragons, but has the biggest payoff, if that makes sense. Right, now for some non-dragon creatures. Elemental Mascot. 1 blue-red for a 1/4 flying vigilant elemental bird. It has Opus. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, this creature gets +1/+0 to end of turn. If 5 or more mana was spent to cast that spell, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until the end of your next turn. Huh. I mean, so if you've already spent 5 mana... Oh, actually, it has to be 5 mana for that spell, not even 5 mana for the turn. And then you get access to the other card, but it doesn't say you get to play it for free, so you still have to pay the cost. Though, if it's like a land or something, you could just play it. I don't know how, like, it's a common, so I guess it doesn't need to be that good. But, I mean, it's sweet art on this card, for sure. But I don't think this really has a purpose outside of limited, if I were just guessing. Fractal Mascot, 4, blue-green, so 6 mana, 6/6, with trample. It's a Fractal Elk, that's a cool creature type. When this creature enters, tap target creature an opponent controls, put a stun counter on it. Alright, so another good one just for limited play, right? It's a common, it's 6 mana, but you do get to tap something down for 2 turns. Like, seems fine. I would play this in my draft deck or sealed pool. Inkling Mascot. Oh, this is crazy. It's white and a black, so 2 mana, 2/2, Inkling Cat. It has Repartee. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature, this creature gains flying until end of turn, and you surveil 1. You know what? Even though this is a common, this actually is kind of useful, right? Whenever you just cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature, so it could be yours or your opponent's, this gets flying until end of turn, and you get to surveil 1. Like, this is at least reasonably worth considering in a couple of lists, depending on how many instants or sorceries you have. Kind of cool art, kind of weird art, but I'm here for it. Pest Mascot. 1 black, green, so 3 mana, 2/3, Pest Ape. That's a creature type we don't see. It has trample. Whenever you gain life, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Now, there are some decks that are going to really want this, because there's some fun combos with gaining life and sacrificing stuff. Obviously, pests that we saw from previous Strixhaven, when they die, you gain life. So, there's some cool stuff you could do with this. Again, it's a little gimmicky. It is a common, so nothing too crazy, but it could find its way into a list or two. Spirit Mascot. Red and a white. I guess every color combo is going to have these, or at least the 5 house colors. But 2 for a 2/2 Spirit Ox. Whenever one or more land card or one or more cards leave your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on this. 2 mana, 2/2. If cards leave your... Well, you know what? This is just cards leave your graveyard. So it could be creatures returning. It could be anything where you're delving stuff for cost. I mean, just a variety of things. So this could be reasonable. Matter of fact, this could sneakily find a home outside of Standard because of all the ways you use your graveyard for stuff. So maybe this has a home somewhere. Guess we're getting into a set of the uncommons here. So we have Graduation Day. Just 1 white mana for an enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. This actually is interesting because I don't think +1/+1 counter decks tend to want a card like this. However, if you are playing a lot of cards that target, protect something, put a counter on a thing, then this just gives you extra value for doing the things you're already doing. So you could probably build a way to take advantage of this, but not sure how good it is overall. Improvisation Capstone. 5 red. Note that this is a lesson, so something to keep track of because we have multiple things that can reduce the cost of lessons. Exile cards from the top of your library until you exile cards with total mana value 4 or greater. You may cast any number of spells from among them without paying their mana costs. And then it has Paradigm. You exile the spell. After you first resolve the spell, after you first resolve a spell with this name, you may cast a copy of it from exile without paying its mana cost at the beginning of each of your first main phases. Wow. So this is wild. So you get all the value, right? You reveal till you get to things that cost 4 or more. Then you get to cast them for free. Then you exile this. And then after you resolve a spell with this name, I guess in the future, you may cast a copy of it from exile without paying its mana cost at the beginning of each of your first main phases. That is, so you just get to do this again at some point during your main phase. Wow. That's crazy. It is a mythic and it costs a lot, so makes sense. But man, this is a powerful card. Like, you're gonna have to get tricky to cast it reliably, but if you do, the payoff is huge. Mathemagics, we saw this previously. XX blue blue, target player draws 2 to the X cards, and then it gives you the thing of like, depending on how much you pay, you could do this many, and so on and so on. Yeah, this is just a really big card drawing spell. Not a lot to write home about. It just get a bunch of mana, draw a bunch of cards, maybe try to use it to deck somebody. Procrastinate. X and a blue. Tap target creature. Put twice X stun counters on it. Yeah, sure. This is just a way to just lock down something for a long time. Like, pay 3, it gets 4 stun counters. Fine. Nothing too crazy here. Stress Dream. 3 blue, red. It's an instant. Stress Dream deals 5 damage to up to 1 target creature. Look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one of those into your hand and the other on the bottom of your library. This is actually not bad for 5 mana. I think the problem, though, is do decks really want more than 1 or 2 of these? Like, don't get me wrong, getting to deal 5 to something and getting to look at get your choice of the top double cards is actually pretty cool. But we have so many good card drawing spells right now that I don't know where this fits or if it's worth it. But I wouldn't be shocked to see it show up. I mean, instant deal 5, look at your top 2, get one of them, still is pretty good. Emeritus of Ideation. 3 blue blue. It's a human wizard that has flying and ward 2. This creature enters prepared. Whenever this creature attacks, you may exile 8 cards from your graveyard. If you do, this creature becomes prepared. Wait, it enters prepared, and then when this creature attacks, you may... Okay. Well, it also has Ancestral Recall, and I say in quotes, attached to it, so target player draws 3 cards. It is a 5/5. But this is probably where we need to go over prepared, right? So my understanding about prepared works is they're all attached to creatures. So you can't ever cast or even search for the spell side without the creature. Everything cares about the creature. So the creature enters, and then you get a copy of their prepared spell if the creature, in this case, enters prepared. So every time the creature becomes prepared, the card is put into exile as a copy. And then you can cast it anytime you could normally cast it. You still have to pay the cost, you still have all the timing restrictions, all that stuff. Then if the creature becomes prepared again later, you then get another copy. If for some reason the creature becomes unprepared or goes away or whatever, you then can no longer cast that spell. Also, something can't become prepared if it's already prepared, so you can't ever get multiple copies of the same spell, at least from the same creature. So a little bit different and complicated. It'll take a little while to get used to, but each of these creatures does come with powerful spells attached, but there is the condition of kind of needing extra mana, having to play the creature first, making sure the creature doesn't die or whatever, so you get access to it. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see where cards like this actually get played, right? Because it is a 5 mana, 5/5 flying with ward, and sometimes we'll be able to just draw you a card. Now, 3 cards, I should say. If this stays alive, though, whenever this creature attacks, you can exile 8 cards from a graveyard. If you do, it becomes prepared. So, you could potentially get maybe 2 or 3 Ancestral Recalls off of this, which isn't anything to turn your nose up at, obviously. Biblioplex Tomekeeper. 4 mana. It's an artifact, so 4 generic mana for a 3/4 constructs. When it enters, choose up to 1. Target creature becomes prepared. Cool. Target creature becomes unprepared. Fair to show this card right after the other card, right? So this is a way you can turn off the preparation of some cards. So if they haven't cast a spell yet, you make them unprepared, they lose the copy of the spell. Now they have to find a way to become prepared again. Not sure if that's going to make this card playable. I guess it'll depend on how many of those prepared creatures we see. But, I mean, the tough thing about cards like this is they're designed really to work against cards within their set. But the rest of the year, we probably won't have any other cards that care about being prepared. So it's really going to come down to how prevalent are the prepared cards out of this set. Grave Researcher, 2 and a black. It's a troll warlock. At the beginning of your upkeep, surveil 1. Then if there are 3 or more creature cards in a graveyard, this creature becomes prepared. And it has Reanimate. Same. It looked like these are all named after actual spells. So Reanimate is a sorcery. Put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to the card's mana value. So 3 mana, 3/3. During your upkeep, you get to surveil 1. And then if there's 3 or more cards in your graveyard, you get access to Reanimate. Yeah, this card's just reasonable. Like, you could just play this in a deck. If you're playing some Golgari mid-rangey pile, you just get to surveil 1 and then occasionally get to Reanimate something. Yeah, not a lot to say. This card's actually solid. Hardened Academic, red and a white for a 2/1, Bird Cleric, flying haste. Discard a card. This creature gains lifelink till a turn. When 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. This seems reasonable. We already have close to bird-based decks that you could play. Not necessarily with red, so that would be a consideration, though there are a bunch of multi-lands. It does have haste, it has flying, which is nice. You could give it lifelink if you need life in a pinch. You also have a way to fill your graveyard, so you could take advantage of stuff leaving your graveyard. And don't forget, there are things like, the ooze, various artifacts that can just remove a card every turn from your graveyard, right? So not going to be difficult to remove cards and even still get value from them. So yeah, this card probably can get some play. Joined Researchers, 1 and a white for a 2/2 first strike. At the beginning of each end step, if an opponent has more cards in hand than you, this creature becomes prepared. Secret Rendezvous, 1 white. You and target opponent each draw 3 cards. You know what? 2 mana, 2/2 first strike. That's kind of typical these days on a bunch of white rares and mythics. But I don't know how much I really like Secret Rendezvous is the problem. Like, you and your opponent each draw 3, and your goal is to keep emptying your hand. Like, Secret Rendezvous, to my knowledge, hasn't gotten a lot of play anyway, just as a spell. So I'm not really sure why they put that as the card of choice on here. Kind of disappointing, actually. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is better than I think it is. But I am not the biggest fan of this one compared to the other cards that become prepared. Landscape Painter, 1 and a blue for a 2/1, Merfolk Wizard. This creature enters prepared. And it has 5 mana, 4 and a blue. Sorcery, you can draw 2 cards. I'm actually okay with that being more expensive, like the most expensive spell side we've seen, because it is just a common. But it is a Merfolk, so it fits into Merfolk decks. If you just want a built-in way to draw cards later, that's fine. Like, just reasonable for a common Merfolk. Studious First Year, 1 mana, so 1 green mana for a 1/1 Bear Wizard. It enters prepared, and you get Rampant Growth. Search your library for a basic land, put a card onto your battlefield tap, then shuffle. I don't know how I feel about, like, it's only a 1 mana, 1/1. So, like, for 3 mana, you get a 1/1 and search for a land. That seems fine. It's not going to blow your doors off, but it's good enough. We have Conciliator's Duel. White, black for a 4. Oh, Duelist. White, black for a 4/3. Core Warlock. When this creature enters, draw a card. Each opponent loses a life. Whenever you cast an enter or sorcery spell that targets a creature, exile up to 1 target creature, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. This could have some potential, right? If you're playing a blink deck of any kind, you actually could kind of get to blink stuff twice, because you could target one thing and then, say you blink that or whatever, and then this ability triggers, so you can now target a different thing and then get those abilities all in one turn. That might be pretty solid. I mean, it's a 4/3. You're going to drain your opponent for 1 life when you cast it, so that's cool. Might be playable. I think this needs some exploration for sure, because this is a very interesting card. Color Storm Stallion, 1 blue-red, so 3 mana, 3/3, Elemental Horse. It has Ward 1, it has haste. Whenever you cast an enter or sorcery spell, this creature gets +1/+1 till end of turn. If 5 or more mana was spent to cast that spell, Create a token that's a copy of this creature. Ooh, now see, this Opus ability is pretty sweet. So you get a 3-mana 3/3 with haste and ward 1. Solid. And then you play an instant sorcery spell. It gets +1/+1 anyway, right? So automatically just gets a boost. But if you spent 5 or more on that spell, then you get a copy of this also. So this is totally reasonable. Even if it's just pumping the creature up, it's basically a prowess creature that has a bigger upside to get a copy. So like, I'm down with this. This is cool. Exhibition Tidecaller. 1 for an 0/2 Djinn Wizard. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery spell, target player mills 3 cards. If 5 or more mana was spent to cast that spell, that player mills 10 cards instead. Well, if you like playing mill decks, here's another option. It's an 0/2 and every spell you cast mills 3, basically. Not a lot else to say. It's kind of straightforward. Old Growth Educator, 2 black-green, 4 mana 4/4 for a Tree Folk Druid, Vigilance, Reach, has Infusion. First time we've seen this on a card. When this card enters, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it if you gained life this turn. Oh, all right. So if you have a way to gain, which there's a lot of ways to gain life, sacrificing stuff that triggers, creatures die, triggers, whatever. But then you get a 6/6 for 4. You know what? If you could find a way to reliably do this or trigger this and get 6/6 Vigilance Reach for 4, that's real strong. Like, hard to argue against that. Lumerit's Favor, 1 and a green. It's an instant. Also has Infusion. When you cast a spell, copy it if you gained life this turn. You may choose new targets for the copy. Target creature gets +2/+4 until end of turn. This is fun. I mean, could be a bit tricky if you're already playing pests and stuff or ways to sacrifice things, because then your opponent doesn't really know, and getting combination of 4 power, 8 toughness across 2 creatures or 1 creature, whatever, could be pretty devastating, especially if any of those have trample or flying or anything else. So yeah, this could be a kind of tricky card in the right deck. Also very peculiar that they made it 2/4, right? It's not +2/+2 or +3/+1. It's much higher toughness than power. Molten Note. This person's like blowing a dragon horn that's spitting fire. That's crazy. X red-white. It's a sorcery. This deals damage to target creature equal to the amount of mana spent to cast this spell. Untap all creatures you control, and it has flashback of 6 red-white. Okay. Deals damage to target creature equal to amount of mana spent to cast this spell. So you could, let's say, spend 4, hit something for 2, and then you get to untap all your creatures. This almost feels more like a combo piece, right? If I have things that need to tap to do a thing, or, remove stuff from graveyards or whatever, generate extra mana, this is probably what you would want, because you could just play it for 2, deal no damage, untap all your creatures, then flash back this thing for 8. This is fine. I don't think it looks like it's an aggressive card, but it might actually be more of a combo piece. Pensive Professor, 1 blue for an 0/2 human wizard with Increment. Whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on this creature, draw a card. And Increment reads as you cast a spell if its cost is greater than the power or toughness of the creature with Increment. You get to add a +1/+1 counter to it. So this is an 0/2, so basically the first couple of spells you play are going to put a +1/+1 counter on it, and then you get to draw a card. So this is actually pretty sweet. This also just says when 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on this creature. So there are lots of blue-green combinations where you can just put counters on your cards every turn, and you're getting to draw cards. So you may not even care about Increment. This is just, all right, I'm just going to keep putting counters on my stuff and getting free cards. Cuboid Colony, green, blue, 1/1, flash. It's an insect, flying and trample, also has Increment. Flying, flash, trample, and has Increment. I mean, we were just talking about doing blue-green stuff with Increment, so yeah, maybe these are part of the same deck. And then some inserts like they did previously, they're just bringing this back. So Smallpox, Vampiric Tutor's another one, kind of cool. Subterranean Trimmers, Giant Growth, that's actually kind of a funny looking one. Reprieve, return target spell to its owner's hand, draw a card. Disdainful Stroke, which people will probably be hunting this one down. Force of Will, going to be one of the big pulls. We hadn't seen a Force of Will reprint in a minute. And also, all of these will have the Japanese style art, kind of abstract sort of thing that we got on the previous ones. And we got a couple of Planeswalkers in this set. So this is Professor Delian Fell, 2 black green, so 4 mana for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. Has 4 abilities, interestingly. So +2, you gain 3 life. For 0, you draw a card and lose 1 life. -3, you get to destroy target creature, which is pretty strong. And then -6, you get an emblem with whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. This is a very interestingly built Planeswalker because if there's nothing going on, you're like, great, I'll just +3, gain life, and then next turn -6 and still have the Planeswalker at 1, right? You go from 7 to 6, and then whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. There's already decks that really want this ability, so that's kind of cool. If your opponent just has one thing, you're like, great, I'll pay 4 and destroy target creature, and then just gain life for a couple turns. That's also valid. And if nothing's really happening you're concerned about, you're like, you know what? I'll just lose a life, draw a card. Right? There's never a time, like, all of these abilities are useful on this card for something. Like, this is a very tough Planeswalker for only 4 mana. And then we have a black, white, or at least on this card, black Ral Zarek, which I'm assuming this is our first look into reality fracture, that not everything's the way it's supposed to be. Because all the Ral Zareks we've seen so far have been blue-red, I'm pretty sure. But either way, Ral Zarek, guest lecturer, 1 black for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker, also with 4 abilities. So 1 less cost for 2 less loyalty to start. +1, you get to surveil 2. Just look at your top 2, decide if you want them, put them in the graveyard, or leave them on top. -1, any number of target players discard a card. Oh, look, another card for the discard players. Sooner or later, we're going to get a discard deck that actually works well in Standard, I'm sure. -2, return target creature, card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. -7, flip 5 coins. Target opponent skips their next X turns, where X is the number of coins that come up heads. What the... Okay, I'm going to keep this as a clean show, but that's kind of crazy. Now, admittedly, it's only 3 loyalty, so you have to get 4 surveils off and then do this the following turn. However, let's say we do find a world where a discard deck works, and maybe you've reached the point where your opponent's already had a card, so you don't even really need to use the minus ability. You're just like plus, 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 plus. Even if you just flip 3 heads off of the 5 coins, your opponent skipping 3 turns probably means they're dead, right? Like, this is kind of wild. Really interesting card. There's also some odd quarter cases where you could do some stuff with, like, play Doubling Season and then play this, so that you could just 2 turns go to the coin flipping. So that's possible. Like, there's some interesting things you might be able to do with this. We have the Dawn Archaic. It costs 10 for a 7/7 avatar. The spell costs 1 less to cast for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard. So a lot of times you're going to be able to mill yourself or whatever, discard, and get this down to probably costing 5 or less. It does have reach. When it attacks, you may cast target instant and sorcery card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. I bet this card will show up in some deck and be a bit of a menace, right? Because it's so easy to get multiple spells into your graveyard. There's a whole variety of ways. Even self-milling if you wanted to. And then being able to just go, all right, cool, now I'm going to attack, and I just get to play something from my graveyard every turn, which is probably going to be some type of removal spell, burn spell, bounce spell, whatever. Like, This card could be a real menace. Rancorous Archaic, 5 mana for a 2/2 trample reach. It has Converge. This creature enters with a +1/+1 counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. So up to 5, obviously. You could make this a 7/7, potentially. But the thing is, I mean, realistically, worst case scenario, you're probably playing this as in a 3-color deck, so you're still getting a 5 mana 5/5 with Trample and Reach. That's probably not terrible either. It's a common, so I don't expect it to really show up and do anything crazy. Definitely not as good as the other one we just talked about, but not enough that I'm going to be shocked if this shows up somewhere. Well, man, I think we did it. We got through everything. Y'all let me know how you feel about these cards. Is there something you're looking forward to? Is there a mechanic you're looking forward to building around? Or are there any cards that are going to fit into decks you already play that are popular? Let me know, because I think that's going to be a good conversation. But that's all of you for now. We'll see you next time.